We are continuing the series of lectures on the theme Know Thyself. Man, since the beginning of his existence, since his consciousness is starting to awaken, he is more and more interested in knowing himself. But as the means, the tools and instruments that he was able to use were exterior to him, which are our five senses, therefore his consciousness and so it is presently only that man is reaching a state of maturity and awakeness where he is ready to make researches as well as exteriorly as inwardly. Great philosophers, initiates, and masters and teachers have left us magical formulas, occult maxims that can help us, where even one phrase can be a whole program for a lifetime. But since man only used these exterior instruments, his five senses, therefore he didn't even suspect how many riches were hidden inside of him, what beauty was placed inside of himself. And presently we are starting to use consciously other senses, other instruments. And thanks to these new instruments and apparatus that have always been there but that were not in use, therefore man will be able to know himself inwardly, where everything lies, because we have already said that man is a universe. Everything that exists in the universe exists inside of us. In appearance, there is the outer and inner world, but the outer world is a mirror. There is nothing more outwardly, because this outer world reflects our inner world, and everything is found inside. Only our cameras, our telescopes, and most wonderful tools were not turned inwardly, but they have always been turned outwardly. We are passing presently through a very specific period. Imagine a child that is starting to go to school. Until 7 years old, his childhood was more at home, close to the parents. But at a certain time, as a child, they want to go out more, even if it's a snowstorm or cold outside. They want to go out, accomplish things for themselves. And humanity today is starting to enter in this special school. This school is called the Divine School. All those whose consciousness is awakened can enter this divine school. Some will ask, where do we find this school? Where it surrounds us. We are in this school all the time, but we have not learned yet how to read or to understand everything that is happening in this amazing school in which we find ourselves continuously. And so, to learn, to know, and to explore and research, there is a necessary condition. It is that the human being must have an awakened consciousness. First of all, what is consciousness? The word itself, consciousness, is composed of two parts. It is very easy to understand. There is the prefix con in Latin, but it is even more ancient than Latin. Con or com is the prefix that means with. And the second part is science. In French, we say conscience, conscious.
Qui nous explique le sens du mot et ce préfixe qui veut dire avec. Alors la conscience,
and therefore consciousness, it is everything that goes with science. But this science is not outward, it is inner. Of course, there is the outer science that is known by scientifics, by education, but there also exists another science, which is the inner science. And this inner science is called consciousness, conscientiousness. The more we are awakened, the more we are able to accomplish certain things, certain actions, the more we become conscious. Another word in the same realm is knowledge. It is everything that goes with birth. In French, we say connaissance. With, con, naissance means birth. This birth is everything that grows from the moment of birth, that grows with a new birth, a new consciousness. Therefore, knowledge is an inner science that we are accumulated and that we continue to acquire through every gesture, through all the elements through which we pass during a day, through all our behaviors as well. So all these actions that accumulate form an experience and form a science. For centuries and thousands of years, humans accumulated knowledge, but they were not necessarily aware of what was happening and accumulating inside of them. We will soon discover, and outer science will also discover, apparatuses that we have inside as human beings, in our inner organs, our energy currents. To become aware of something means we become conscious of something. Imagine that in the house we have children, and in this same house you have the most precise and amazing apparatus and machines. You have computers, microscopes, and other things. But a child is not conscious of the value and what these apparatus can do and what they represent. And so human beings are a little bit like these children, because only in our inner body it is like a house or a building with installations. And we have been told, and it is written, "Do you not know that you are a temple of God?" And so if we are a temple, there are incredible installations inside. And mostly, as in ancient temples, what we are discovering is just amazing. And so because we are not aware of how this temple and building functions yet, we are not conscious, and so we can't use these apparatus that are inside. But humanity is going through changes and is going through the end of many eras, in the same way that there is the end of a school year. And as one era finishes, another starts, and it will bring us an awakening of the consciousness. And therefore, all this science, this inner science that we have accumulated for thousands of years, this science will appear, and we will be able to become aware of it. We will be able to share and enter something completely different that we have never known up to now. And so consciousness is the accumulation of our own experiences, what we have acquired for lifetimes and lifetimes, but that have not come to our consciousness because we weren't very aware of what we were doing. If you ask a child, what have you done yesterday or last month or a year ago, they don't remember this much. And so on a cosmic level, as we are these children, perhaps we don't even know how to talk like little children. We are amusing ourselves, we are learning, we are discovering, but as children, they are not very aware and not necessarily imprinting these experiences in our consciousness. And so, what does our consciousness depend on, whether we are aware or not? It depends on the quantity and the quality of our acquisitions. If we have many, many acquisitions linked to an inner science, if it is very rich of the accumulation of these experiences, if there were a lot and if they were very numerous, in that case, the accumulation all of a sudden will awaken something and will come up to our consciousness. And so we become aware of this. But there are many, many degrees, and presently we are changing degrees. And thanks to these changes, we will become aware of everything that we possess, everything that we have accumulated, and mostly everything that we are able to do. And so this quantity of all the past experiences gives us the possibility to discover ourselves, to know ourselves. Of course, we have so many other experiences to come, but it is a first step. So humanity is going through an awakening of consciousness. It can be compared to a young man or a young woman who is finally 18 years old. We become an adult. And this phenomena gives us so many more possibilities. We are able to travel alone. We can have our own passport. We don't have to be with our parents. We become an adult, and a lot of possibilities are opening in the front of us. And so on a cosmic level, we were the same. We didn't have our own passport, or were always on our parents' or accompanied by our parents. So in the same way, we become more adult as human beings. And so in which way do we become richer? And in which way do we accumulate these riches that form this knowledge of our inner self? Everything that a human being lives and passes through, everything is recorded inside of him and her. This inner science is of a divine precision. Everything has been recorded to a phenomenal precision. We have had these apparatus forever, and even if we didn't know that they were present and there, it has still recorded everything. Today, if we read in the Holy Scriptures, which hold a whole science, Jesus said, if you want to pray sincerely, if you want to speak to God, enter in your secret room and pray. This phrase can be understood in a literary way, that Jesus suggested that we should go somewhere in a little room, in our little living room, to speak to God. But I wonder if in ancient Palestine they had many rooms. But maybe he spoke about something that is symbolic in images. And initiates know this secret room that is inside of us. This secret room is found in the left ventricle of our heart. And this secret room is very small. It has the size of one atom. If you consider the heart, there is one dot, which is the size of an atom. And this atom is called the permanent atom, or the germ atom, or the seed atom, and was called by the initiates the permanent atom. And there it permits us to record everything that is happening inside and outside of us. We can be conscious or unconscious of it, but it is still all recorded. From the very first breath to the very last one, everything is recorded in this secret room. And it is through these recordings, it is through these installations of this secret room that we can communicate with our soul, that we can communicate with God and address our prayers there. And so if Jesus sent us to this room, it is because he knew how this functions, how we can give a call and phone our soul or God. He knew what we could find there in this secret room. And we will speak again of this room. And it is not only during our lifetime that this room is important, but even after, when we go to other places, all these recordings that were taken have an amazing importance. So, therefore, for our consciousness to one day awaken, to be able to be conscious of everything that surrounds us, of the whole universe, it is this work that happens in our secret room. All these recordings and experiences, this is what matters for this coming of consciousness that we are going through. A long time ago, there lived a king, and as he was aging, he didn't want to leave these truths everywhere or anywhere for people to trample on. So he wanted to really put it in a precious place and hide it so that no one would find this truth. And so he went to ask wise men for a suggestion of where he should hide this truth. And so they all started meditating and looking for where they should hide this. And so the eldest says, give me an hour of reflection. And so he meditates and thinks. After a moment, he says, I think it would be very good if we hid truth in the center of the earth. And although human beings may dig, they won't find it easily. But the youngest wise man said, I'm not sure this is a good place because humans will dig until they find it. But give me some moments and I will also reflect on this. And so the second meditated, reflected profoundly. And after he said, well, I think that we should hide it in the depths of the ocean. But the third wise man said, oh, I'm not sure because humans will also find ways to go to the depths of the ocean. But give me a bit of time, I will also reflect. And finally, he says, I think the best place would be the human heart. Man will go everywhere and dig and go high in space, but they will never go and think to look in their own heart. And so when they presented this solution to this king, he was delighted and so decided to hide this truth in the human heart. And this is where it is since that time, and this is where the permanent atom, where we are accumulating all our truths until we become conscious of the only truth, the one and only, which is divine. And before we get there, we have to go through degrees and different levels of little lies and bigger lies, and then little lies, and they start to diminish more and more, until one day we will find ourselves in one truth, which is a divine truth. But before getting there, each experience, everything that we have touched, every single experience that we have had, which has enriched us, permitting us to enter, and is permitting us to live and experience a new degree of truth. And so, with all these new degrees of truth, this is how we become more and more conscious of the universe, of the one who has created the universe, the one who is the author of everything that surrounds us. So imagine someone who has accumulated many truths and knowledges, that has learned and applied mostly this knowledge. Someone who possesses this inner wealth. Thanks to this wealth, as soon as this person will find themselves in the front of a new fact, in the front of a new experience, something that is new will seem like something familiar to us, because we will be able to access all these other experiences of the past, and we will, in a way, recognize a new experience and feel like we already own it. Sometimes we hear someone talk And although it is new, we will accept it right away, very easily. This new idea will enrich us. It is a new situation, a new idea, something that presents itself. And as we reintegrate it, it feels like an inner joy. It is as though we have found a small particle of something that already belongs to us because it reflects inside of us. And so both ways, from inside to the outer world, and what we live outside as new experiences will remind us that we have already lived it and that it corresponds to inner truths. And although all our surrounding may say that this is nonsense, we will feel joy of our discovery. Sometimes it is even wise to not necessarily share with all our surrounding what we have discovered inwardly, this small truth that is there, because when we uncover it right away, sometimes people they may destroy it or they may neglect it. And so it is in this way, with little experiences that touch us, or that remind us and reflect something that is inside of us, it is in these little situations that joy flourishes inside and reminds us and helps us to grow in our consciousness. For example, sometimes you may hear people speaking about extraterrestrial beings, and that this world, this cosmos, these other planets are perhaps also populated with other beings that may be more intelligent, more wise. So this may interest you, and you may want to live this joy of discovering more about this. And sometimes a husband or a friend someone who may have difficulty accepting something like this, may put you down. But this means that perhaps for this friend or relationship that is not accepting your new discovery, perhaps for this person they have not the accumulated past experiences which permits him or her to live this same joy and this same interest for new subjects or new areas of life or extraterrestrial beings, for example. So they don't have the same baggage that can permit both of you to rejoice on these same subjects.
Nous parlerons plus tard même de deux façons par lesquelles la conscience s'éveille.
We will speak soon of two different ways through which consciousness is awakened.
Ou par la joie ou par la souffrance.
So just as a preview, we can say that consciousness awakens either through joy or either through suffering. And so, of course, it would be beautiful if it was only through joyful experiences and recognition, but sometimes it is only through suffering that consciousness is awakened rapidly. When we have this degree of suffering, when we have hardship, then consciousness bursts and awakens itself. But it is like if someone was drowning, so we move in every direction to try to find how to swim. So the consciousness is the same when we go through suffering and deep hardships. But when we practice and want to be more aware and make efforts to awaken our consciousness, when we are aware that it is this accumulation of past experiences, we can go further and add these degrees on our path so as to develop our consciousness through joyful experiences. In the universal masterpiece. So imagine that through your observation, through everything that you do, you are amazed at millions of beautiful things around you. You may feel joy and love beautiful houses, for example. You know beautiful flowers. You are amazed. You can observe them. You may conserve them or press them. Perhaps you are amazed at beautiful paintings and maybe collect them. Some cultivators love to experiment and cultivate special seeds. Perhaps you love different materials and fabrics to touch. And so imagine how human consciousness goes through millions and millions of facts. These domains, all these different domains which we may be interested in and admire. And so through these millions of images and things that go through our mind and heart, everything is recorded. And through these millions of different things that we love and are interested by, we awaken inside of us, and we have installed a consciousness that is concrete. So this reality is composed of all these beautiful things that we see and that we love, and this can be composed of all these things to infinity. And so imagine that this infinity is in the form of a circle, and perhaps even a huge circle that also spirals up. And this is our sort of a down-to-earth consciousness. But our consciousness is not limited to this earthly, factual consciousness. So if someone says beauty, only this word will trigger in us everything that we are conscious of that is linked to beauty. And each human being has different images that are linked to their own unique experiences that are linked to beauty. And so this word will make us think of everything that we have recorded in ourselves that is linked to beauty. Those beautiful houses, seeds, paintings. And so this word, which is very symbolic, is linked to something very concrete.
Se sont confondus, se sont fusionnés, unis en un seul mot,
And so
qui est présentement
all
beauté.
these different experiences that are very concrete are all linked and
Conscience, un degré
mixed
nouveau
into the experience of
qui est
beauty.
la conscience abstraite. Il n'y a
And
plus
this
en réalité dans le mot même, il n'y a aucune image.
Then corresponds and is linked to an abstract consciousness as well. Because this abstract consciousness, as the word beauty, is abstract. If you hear the word freedom, absolute, reality, there are many words that represent a synthesis of what we have lived before. And the synthesis inside of us represents abstract consciousness. We don't have to explain to someone today what is freedom or imagine necessarily someone who is free from prison. Someone else may imagine a free decision that they may have taken. So everyone has different images.
Par le seul mot qui est le symbole, qui est un signe, c'est la conscience abstraite.
So all these images are expressed through what we call abstract consciousness.
Des millions et des milliards de cas, d'images concrètes, que nous pouvons les remplacer par un seul mot.
And so,
qui n'a même pas d'image.
if we imagine how wonderful it is when we think about the fact that abstract words such as beauty, absolute, or freedom, when we all have numerous experiences which feed these abstract thoughts and words, where probably all humanity can relate to one word because we all have millions and millions of experiences that feed these abstract words that are beauty and freedom. And so we have so many other experiences in common where our language and our consciousness can work together. Imagine when we speak about joy or prayer. And so when we say house, for many people, a house is very concrete. We know what a house is, but it is at the same time very abstract because everything that is lived in a house is unique to every person. And so this abstract level of consciousness is not whole as an image of consciousness yet. And so I would be interested in knowing who says that this abstract word of beauty, let us say, it evokes a concrete image of a flower, let's say, when we say beautiful. But who says that this flower is beautiful? For a beautiful house, there's a beautiful design, and the architect makes a beautiful drawing, a beautiful fabric, a beautiful painting, a beautiful seed, which is healthy, will probably produce beautiful flowers. And what will make a beautiful woman? That we can discuss further, but I would say it is a beautiful soul. A beautiful soul will make and produce and inspire a beautiful woman. And so we can continue to go towards the root of what makes things how they are. So this root or seed of beauty, imagine an architect that holds inside his mind a beautiful drawing of a house. That architect may have this plan since many, many years, but no one is seeing it. This consciousness that he is holding in his mind, or a painter that may hold in his heart a drawing of a future painting. Where do they find this? Where is it found? We could say that there is no space, there is not a specific place for that. But somewhere in the cosmos, somewhere in the universe, imagine the Templar in the ancient, the Templars, or the Renaissance artists who have attracted these beautiful seeds, or these seeds that were not visible, of beauty and of future beauty. So this consciousness is linked to cosmic consciousness. And so these creators who create beauty, in holding and carrying beautiful thoughts, in holding beautiful plans or drawings, these seeds that they hold inside of them represent the degree of consciousness which is of a cosmic level. And if we analyze this region of cosmic consciousness, even if we attain this level of cosmic consciousness, it is still not finished. Because each seed, each thought, each plane must be fed by someone. When we put a seed in the earth, imagine if there was no sun. This seed would not be nourished, have no heat, no light, and the sun, and with other processes that the sun produces in the atmosphere. So this little seed would have nowhere to go. So even if this seed does exist in the cosmic consciousness realm, someone has to feed this realm. And so inventors, geniuses, saints of the earth, all those who have brought for humanity this beauty, have gone to this cosmic warehouse. But who is keeping this cosmic warehouse, keeping the right temperature, heating it? There is an eternal source that is a universal source that permits the maintenance, that permits life to continue and enables us to keep this wealth as a primary source that nourishes everything. And it is called in many traditions the primary source. Certain beings in the universe call it cosmic intelligence, or the creator, the father, the universal thinker. There are many, many words, and for us the most familiar word is God. We also say Creator or Lord. It is like the owner or the landlord of all the splendors and everything that exists in the universe, of this immense warehouse from which we can attract these beautiful seeds and that we will materialize later on. And so we have elevated ourselves from this lowest concrete consciousness to go to the abstract consciousness, followed by the cosmic consciousness, and then the universal consciousness. It is like a child discovering an orange, looking at it, how beautiful it is, discovering its source that looks like the sun, because it is like a little sun. And later on, one day, this child will discover that what feeds the orange comes from the primary source. And so this consciousness is above everything. And so we can come down through different levels of consciousness to come down to what is accessible to our five senses. And so it appears to us that these degrees of consciousness are exterior to us, that it is something that we can learn and structure. But you will see that these degrees of consciousness are found inside of us, and that these degrees of consciousness are linked very tightly to ourselves, to our systems, our being. And these degrees are not separated from ourselves. It is our inner science. It belongs to us, and we find it in ourselves. And so we will visit a new image through which we can understand that in reality these degrees are not outward from us, but inside of us. So these facts, this concrete consciousness, the words beauty, freedom, that represent abstract consciousness, represent certain rules for the universe. One rule, it is like rules for driving. They can contain many different facts. And so one rule can hold and be linked to many, many facts and different experiences. And so when we rise higher, when we find the source linked to the cosmic consciousness, we find laws. So above the rules, there are the laws. And these laws are nourished and installed and held by a higher consciousness, by principles. And so there exists only 10 principles in the universe that correspond to the 10 numbers. And these 10, these 10 numbers can be condensed into one principle. So if we take two sheets, we have 1 and we have the 0. So this is not magic, it is very simple. So I present to you 1. This is 1. And so this one, when it is folded in different ways, it can form different numbers.
Plier complètement, le rouler si on veut.
So we can fold it completely, even roll it, and it will form the 0. So Hindus call 1 the manifested God. And they call 0, which is also 1, but that is closed. It is God non-manifested, which is like an egg. And so one day we will speak about the Holy Trinity. It is what is found in the egg. There is the yellow, the white, and the shell. The one is the 0 is God non-manifested, but when it is manifested, we have 1. And if we place 1 manifested, which side to make a 10? So we place the 1, which is manifested, with the non-manifested, it creates 10. And it is because of this manifestation and non-manifestation that we have 10 principles. And they are always united, and they all complete in one and only. As this 1, when we fold it in different ways, it is 1 or 10, which is always 1, which is connected or not, manifested or not. And so this principle is very simple. It is called 1, the whole, the source. It is this principle that reigns and manipulates everything in the universe and creates everything. It is the principle of creation. Degrees of consciousness correspond for astrologers to the 4 elements. You will see that the degree, which is the most concrete, is earth. The facts represent earth. Beauty and rules. The degree of abstract consciousness is water. Laws is linked to air, cosmic consciousness, and the universal consciousness is fire. And so these 4 degrees and 4 elements, we find them in ourselves under a different form. The bone system is the earth in us, facts on which we can count on. The regulatory system, the heart, it is linked to the heart and the blood, everything that flows. There are rules that are very strict to follow. Imagine if the heart skips a few beats. If it doesn't follow the rules, it will debalance and create a heart attack. And so this is at the level of abstract consciousness, which is represented by the element water. So the respiratory system corresponds to the laws, to air. Imagine if we stop breathing. Without water, we can survive a few days. Without eating, which is concrete, earth, we can even survive for weeks. But without water, a bit less. Without air, even less. Try not breathing for half an hour. And so laws are even more important. They correspond to the respiratory system. And now imagine living without heat. You may say, oh, for winter it's not hot, or in prisons it's very cold, but it is not the same heat. We are speaking here about inner heat. When our inner warmth leaves, then we die. So this sacred fire that we possess, it is impossible to live without these principles. It is linked to the consciousness, the universal consciousness, which is linked to the principles. And so you see how this level of principles is the most important in us. And I heard that some people have fasted without food for up to 72 days, but there is no instant where we can live without this inner fire. And so this is linked to the nervous system. And so all these levels of consciousness are found inside of us. And so we could go even further with these degrees of consciousness, because there exists inside of us an individual consciousness where we want to gather everything for ourselves. Then we have a collective consciousness where we can also think of our neighbors or of bus drivers when they are not working. So it's everything that surrounds us. It is linked to more of an abstract consciousness. And this collective consciousness is surpassed by fraternal consciousness that Jesus preached. But soon we will realize this fraternal consciousness where we consider each other as brothers and sisters. And even after, we will attain a level of consciousness that is unity, a universal consciousness. And so, presently, humanity will rise all the way to fraternal consciousness, which is Christic consciousness. And so, there are marvels that we may find inside of us that have always been there. And although we were not aware of everything that we had inside, starting now, we can be amazed at everything that comes out of us, and to what point that the future that awaits us is rich and beautiful.